presentation. So
I will type.
Let's light it up. So an entrepreneur or entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship are internal employers or employees who use entrepreneurial skills and thinking how to create initiatives that will benefit a company financially. To give you some qualification on why I kind of chose this topic, I want to tell you a little bit about, Jay Hill. This is my life. So, husband of 25 years, married to a beautiful woman named Tracy. I'm a father of 4 boys: Maxwell, Grayson, Walker, Landon. Maxwell and Grayson. Maxwell is a senior at Purdue. Grayson is a sophomore at Purdue. Walker is a senior. He's graduating from high school this year. I'm very excited about that. And Landon is a sophomore. We have a Yorkie. His name is Scout. He's been with us for 10 years, and he's got my heart. And then we brought on 2 additional pets, Jade and Jasper, who are short-haired black cats. So, and Jasper is actually bigger than our Yorkie, and they get into some interesting fights and conversations in a very silent manner. I'm a gym rat and a fitness buff and sports buff. I just recently came back from the Super Bowl. I was at the Super Bowl in LA. I spent almost a week out there partying with folks and attending the game, and it was my first Super Bowl experience, and I had a blast. I'm a wannabe golfer. I just broke 100. For all of those golfers out there, or wannabe golfers that know what 100 really means to you, it means I'm a couple of strokes short of 100, which improves my handicap. I am a old school or crusty old drummer. I started playing percussion and drums when I was 6 years old. Played in high school as well as played at U of I as kind of like my get away from class stuff. I played at the School of Performing Arts. I didn't even minor in it. I just did it because I wanted to continue my career in playing. But I played at Cranard. I played in the symphony, the orchestra, and I played in the jazz band and concert band while I was at U of I. And then I'm a lifelong learner. I just love to learn. Self-development is my thing. For all those Brene Brown fans out there, I am with you. I'm learning how to be more empathetic, more vulnerable in my life, both in my professional and personal life. From a professional point of view, I've always been in business, and I've been an entrepreneur and entrepreneur. I've consulted both small and medium-sized businesses. I'm currently an investor as well. I've raised over $20 million in equity for not only my startups, but other people's startups, as well as raised over $10 million in debt and managed over $10 million in debt throughout my career. So I received a couple of important lessons about the fundamentals of business and what to pay attention to when growing my career. Number 1, create profitable revenue. How do you do that? You drive revenue, you reduce costs, and increase productivity and efficiencies. Number 2, the one constant in life is change. We live in a very dynamic society, and business and the professions that you choose are just as dynamic. And then number 3 is to always create value. Any questions? Any thoughts around that? Mina, does this tackle some of the things that you were talking about in your question, things that you should focus on?
Yes, these are things I'm actually currently learning about in real time as far as business things. So I think you said drive revenue, reduce costs. I think I'm just starting to trickle into that field with TCG and 42nd Parallels. So I'd like to, hear more about.
How am I doing the process? Just regular process like this?
Maybe go on mute.
Lee, hope the things are going well, brother. Good to hear from you. Haven't heard your voice in a while. That was cool. But yeah, Mina, The thing is, the goal in business is to drive profitable revenue. You could see that in the public markets. You see it the most in the public markets. You really don't see it in the private markets, because in public markets, you have to have, quarterly earnings statements, right? You have to tell the public, your shareholders and stakeholders, how well or how not well you're doing. So, and the thing that they're keying on the most is the profitability. So you can drive a lot of top line revenue, but if you have high costs and you're not very efficient or productive in terms of what you do, you are going to end up on the wrong side of that profitability scale, right? And then the one constant in life is change. That's why you have to be flexible and have the ability to adapt. And then, like you were saying, you're starting your career. The most important thing you can do, and which we'll talk about through some examples later on, is how you're creating value on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis with your friends, family, and the folks you work with.
Thank you.
So let's take a journey through my career. Woo, look at this timeline, y'all. I know it looks like a lot, and it is.
Man, I forgot about that 46664.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, right, Freddie? I mean, Jay Hill's been everywhere, right?
Yeah, I remember sitting with you on that.
Yes. So, I like to ask my virtual friends and family, what do you guys see on this slide? Anyone want to make any comments about this slide before I jump into it?
I mean, you're kind of through, like, I see like the recession, like era of things, prosperity, and then like the inflation. So I'm going to assume you're going to tell us how you adapted to the times.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Mina. Hey, Mina can't be the only person that has something to say. But anyway,
I'll say something in terms of
Jacqueline.
With looking at this, and I see your movement in the recession and prosperity. I show you staying consistent in one place when we're going through a recession, right? So as long as the paycheck is coming in and we're in a recession, stay put, right? And when we're going uphill, that's when you can go ahead and start diversifying and put your hands on different pots.
That is a great observation. So basically, I'm showing you guys Jay Hill's macro and microeconomic environment. Jacqueline, you hit it right on the head, right? So check out the cycles. They're every 10 years, based on the U.S. economy, right? So we got recessions and we got a little bit of prosperity. And in today's cycle, we're moving into a cycle of inflation. I started my career in telecommunications because we were in a recession when I graduated from the University of Illinois. My expectation, I was going into the advertising and public relations agency world. I had co-opted at Procter & Gamble. I had worked at Burrell Advertising as an intern. So I thought my life was set and I was really excited. But because, as we know, the economy contracts in a recession, and I had to be flexible in figuring out what that next career opportunity would look like that didn't involve working for an agency. And I ended up in telecommunications. So I had to adapt to the conditions around me, be flexible to the opportunities that were given to me. So by learning and understanding and practicing the fundamentals, those 3 things we talked about, my goal was to immediately, as fast as I could, start creating value in the shortest amount of time. This required me to have a beginner's mindset, to be curious, ask questions, play chess, not checkers. So, quick question for you all. What is a beginner's mindset? Anybody?
I know the answer to that, so I won't answer that.
Oh, okay, that's cool. But it basically is a Zen Buddhist principle, right? It means you look at every situation you're placed in as if it is the first time you're seeing it, right? I don't care how experienced you are. You can see my experience in telecommunications is pretty deep, from Cable and Wireless, Ameritech, USN, ARC, WOW, US Cellular, but each time it was different, and I kind of had to have a beginner's mindset with each movement that I had. So what do you guys think I mean about playing chess, not checkers?
I think planning your moves out carefully rather than just going for
Totally.
it.
Yes. Anyone else?
Not looking at it for immediate gain, but looking at it for the long game.
Yes. Yes.
I would say strategy.
Okay. All right, Miss Boyd, I see you. Strategy.
Nicole Padilla also said strategy in the chat box.
Cool. So you all are right? I think about training day when Denzel told the newbie, we're playing chess, not checkers. This job is way more complicated than it seems. It moves fast, it's dynamic, with a lot of moving parts. So simply boiling that down, it basically says you have to think about it as having more strategy, right, than tactics. So playing chess, not checkers. So a couple examples of that. All right, quick history lesson. ARC, professional services organization, providing internet connectivity to businesses, but they did it differently. They were a first market mover in the fiber space, providing vertical fiber in commercial office buildings after the government deregulated the riser space, like in the Sears Tower, the John Hancock, the Civic Opera Building, some of the things you know around Chicago. I was brought in based on my experience in telecom to sell to those customers, but I didn't know anything about fiber. So I had to learn about fiber. That's why I said I'm constantly learning. So I had to adapt to a new environment. So after learning how to sell this stuff properly, I became extremely successful. And mind you, this was still a privately held company at the time, and we were still raising money. We were actually working on our round A at that time. Then I noticed something. I was listening to my customers. My customers were like, hey, we're having some problems. After you guys come in here and put all this stuff in, we don't have anybody to manage it, meaning in that environment, the IT employees were always rotating because they were gaining experience and going on to bigger and better things. So I was very fortunate to have sales engineers that work with me. And I went to the management team and the sales engineers and said, hey, all of you guys have certifications and your experience in information technology management and break fix. How about we create a professional services program, minimal viable product, to pilot and see if companies will buy it. I worked on a pricing structure with the finance department. I got the blessing of the sales engineer management team, and we went out and sold over $500,000 in professional services that year. We got the attention of the CEO, the CFO, and the CMO, and they decided to take my little program and turn it into a national product, which generated millions of incremental dollars, value-added revenue dollars, and also contributed to them going IPO later. Another company that you see on there is WOW. WOW is the 6th or 7th largest cable TV provider. They're based out of Denver, and they bought a little company in Chicago called Ameritech New Media. This was when Ameritech, the local phone company, was providing cable TV services. They were in the red. There were 2 board members that sat on the WOW board, and they asked me to come in and help them figure out a way to launch Chicago quickly and profitably, based on my experience in the telecommunications industry. I didn't know anything about cable TV, but I do know that there's a little line that connects to something and provides content or internet access. So I was good on that. So anyway, built a strategy for marketing, strategy for sales. They worked so well that customers became dissatisfied. And what did they become dissatisfied with? The fact that they couldn't get their services installed. So they would sign this paperwork with the expectation of getting their services in a big way in a very short period of time, and it didn't happen. So what did I do? I became an intrapreneur again and went to the operations group and said, hey, listen, we're losing customers. I showed them the reports because of a lack of installs. They would sign this paperwork, they would put their deposit down, and then they wouldn't receive anything, which required a lot of additional work to refund all that cash because they were dissatisfied. So what I did with the operations team and management, I said, hey, if you guys could give me 4, 5, 6, 7 trucks per territory, so that once the salespeople, door-to-door salespeople, go in and sell these products, we can roll a truck and have an install in the same day. What did that do? It alleviated the customers' despondence, meaning they weren't pissed off anymore because they weren't getting installed. Number two, it gave us the ability to actualize that revenue, and it had accelerated the ability to move from the red into the black within a year. So that's the ability to think out of the box, as well as create value from being an intrapreneur. I have two more examples if you guys are good with this. US Cellular, I was brought in by the two board members that I spoke to about WOW. They were starting a US Cellular agency in Chicago. They were, pleased with the work I had done for WOW, and they wanted to do the same kind of work, accelerate growth at US Cellular. So I did the same thing, kind of thunk out of the box, didn't know anything about cellular phones, mobile, retail. I had to learn it all again. And I ended up growing the company from 0 to $15 million in revenues per year within 5 years. And I made a big bet on people. People power is what drives businesses. And the ability to educate them, have them grow, learn those 3 fundamentals, and then preach those fundamentals for us to have a strong foundation to grow stores. We became the largest African-American agent in the United States, and we became the most profitable African-American agent in the United States. So amongst these, Cellular Advantage, one of our competitors within the Chicago market, Jacqueline, we outgrew them in the market, and we ended up going into St. Louis. And we were first market mover in Northwest Indiana, and we ended up selling that back to US Cellular. And the reason why they loved our business model is not only because we kind of mirrored pretty much everything they did from a corporate point of view, but I diversified revenue. We not only had retail revenue, we had B2B revenue. I had sub-agents selling services on our behalf, which was never done before. And then for stores that weren't performing so well, I would sell those stores as incremental revenue for the business to other agents. And then finally, where I am today, Salesforce. I was brought in by the SVP of Customer Success, Amer. He now also runs Latin America as well. And I was brought in to not only work for the company and build relationships and maintain Salesforce and grow Salesforce within our existing customers, but he brought me in to help add some value in an area that they were struggling with. And that is the ability to hire and retain underrepresented minorities, Black folks, Latino folks, and Native American folks within the division. So not only am I had to relearn and figure out what software and SaaS and all those things are about, but I also had to work off the side of my desk to start providing some value and becoming an entrepreneur again to create a minimal viable product of which I've gotten not only the senior vice president of this division to sign off on, but other divisions to participate in the pilot program to drive recruiting, to set up better retention programs to hold on to employees, and to groom and grow these employees to be our future senior directors and vice presidents within Salesforce. So I'm actually working on that kind of stuff today. So learning and practicing the fundamentals helped me to create strong relationships and opportunities. At this time in my career, no resume is required. My reputation precedes me. People call me to help them solve complex problems. Any questions? I know that was pretty long. Did you want me to talk about anything else that relates to this career pathing?
No resume is required.
Right on.
That's a real thing.
The mic drop, like, no resume.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says that.
That's a real thing. You know, when you get to the point where, ain't nobody asking you for a resume. Hey, we have this opening. You want it? You want to do business with me? Hey, what you doing? Let's do business together. Like, no resume is required. It's like, Lee, let's make some t-shirts.
I want a t-shirt. No code switching is one of the t-shirts, and no resume required is another t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
A
So,
lot.
No resume required. The legend is here. That's sure.
There you go. Alana said in the chat, all she can say is wow.
Oh, that's cool. And all of you could be wow. You know, one of the things I try to create along my career path is raving fans. And I don't know if you guys have read that book or heard of that principle, but I would definitely check out raving fans.
And John, you have a question here.
Yeah.
You mentioned to
Okay.
questions.
Yep. We have a question from Tanisha.
Hi, Tanisha.
Sure. She says, what sets apart entry-level applicants in your hiring experience?
What sets them apart? Man, that's a really good question. You know, entry-level applicants don't have the thing that we all cherish as experience, because we want those folks to come into an organization and hit the ground running. But in lieu of the specific job experience and or industry experience is showing us that you're able to complete things at a high level, right? So if you're just coming out of college, are you an AB student? Did you participate in clubs or sports while you were in school? Did you participate in non-for-profits? You know, what are your values, principles, and interests? Because you can align around those things where the experience doesn't matter as much, right? So those are some of the things I would pay attention to in crafting, you know, a resume or preparing for an interview or, you know, preparing to present to a client.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Was that enough? Did that answer your question?
Yes, that did answer my question. Because like, it's kind of confusing because I'm applying to like all these job opportunities I'm looking at, you know, because I'm graduating this May. So I think because they have all these requirements, but then obviously they're not asking for experience, right? So it's kind of confusing what exactly they're asking for, because it's kind of like just besides just you knowing a certain set of like applications they want you to know and stuff like that, it's just kind of going in circles because I don't know how to explain this, but I feel like it's very repetitive and it's very it's very unclear in a lot of places that what would set me apart from any other applicant that's applying to another entry-level job, you know.
Yeah, and I get that, and I've been in your shoes, and I continue to work people that are in your shoes. The other thing that I would add to my answer would be building relationships, because relationships are the key to success for me. My network is my net worth. Have you guys heard that before? Your network is your net worth. And that's why no resume is required, because of my network. So, you know, to get around the machine learning aspect of reviewing resumes when you submit them, it's all about the relationships. So as Freddie kind of stated around Salesforce, the senior vice president created a role for me. There wasn't even a role that existed at that time. And he told certain people in the organization that he wanted them to hire me. Now, this doesn't happen that often, but I had actually been in the trenches with that guy starting at the beginning of my career and through some of the startups that we experienced together. And he knew what, you know, kind of work product I could provide. So therefore he wanted to bring me in. Yes, relationships, correct. You got to stay connected. Don't burn any bridges. So value is one of the things I keep saying along with being an entrepreneur, right? So one of the fundamentals I discussed in creating value were those three fundamentals, those principles. And if you follow those principles, you know, profitable revenue, the ability to accept change, adapt and be flexible. And then that third one, what was the third one? I forgot. Anybody? Add value. You will do well in the careers that you are either embarking on or continuing to grow. So the question then becomes, how are you adding value, right? Adding value was fundamental to career growth. It is more than doing what you're expected to do or are asked to do or what your job description says. It's kind of thinking out of the box and sharing thoughts or contributing to solving problems, right? So there are several thoughts in this slide, as you can see, about generating value and assisting to create profitable revenue and cost savings. Everyone can participate. So folks in sales or new business development, folks that are doing marketing, product marketing, marketing communications, integrated marketing. The operation folks, building systems and processes and managing software or hardware. And then the finance folks, managing, Petrie or QuickBooks or some other financial services platform to run a business. Everybody can participate in those fundamentals. Back to a beginner's mindset though. What do you think you could do differently to influence the change that's needed to drive revenue and costs? That's something that I want you guys to constantly be thinking about. Be conscious of that in your day-to-day work with Freddie and Lee and Mina and Cynthia and Jackie and Larry. And then let me ask you this. Is there anyone on here that's willing to share something that they have worked on currently or in the past that is an example of helping to drive revenue or reduce costs? I understand. I get it.
There's somebody here that does it all the time.
And I think he's wearing a hat.
There's somebody that I have that conversation with all the time, Jackie.
Yes.
You stood quiet.
I was thinking of the 25 tasks that I do on a daily basis and how I try to reduce cost.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can participate. If you're reducing costs, you're increasing the profit margin, right?
I will say on one thing, and I'm taking a ton of notes, but one thing that I think I like to take pride in and reducing cost, right, is you said double down or bet on people. And I think that when you have really good people and you really focus on training those individuals, you end up reducing your costs, right? You can minimize your workforce, work more efficiently, and be able to flex, some of your workload off by training your people to do some of that work as well. So
totally agree, Jackie. Or should I say Jacqueline?
No, Jackie. Jacqueline.
We're on Jackie terms. That's cool.
Yes.
I just can't read a discussion forum.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the legendary Courtney Counts coming in.
What's up, Towns?
Hey, what's up, John? Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too.
Courtney was our first Shinjiro session speaker, by the way, I believe.
Wow, that's cool.
I would say too, the efficiency piece, because sometimes bodies don't necessarily mean good business, right? Like, I think that's one of the, I could just say, just looking at US Cellular when John was president of all those stores, I would say, I know there's conversation you had with me, like you have bodies coming in and out, right? Because, you had the volume, you had the customer base, you had to service them, but, not everybody's going to grasp like how to, follow through with selling the cell phone or,
that's right.
I know for being an independent retailer, I remember your training was extensive, and you had like a training room at one of the stores on Western, I believe it was.
It was
all that. We used it.
Wow.
I used it for training my crew. You're like, you could use the space, trade. Like, and there was a lot of, I seen you constantly have to change gears and step in yourself when you needed to and so forth. And I think I think we sometimes confuse like, oh, let's just add a whole bunch of bodies and everything will be all, okay at the end of the day. It really doesn't work. It's the who and the what.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because you add a lot more, costs to the model with a lot of bodies thrown at it, and then you add a lot of chaos in because not everybody's working at the same level with the same efficiency. So it was really important for me. Basically, what Freddie said was to create a learning management system. So when I brought in folks to the organization, they knew who we were, what our values were, what our mission statement was, what our vision was, and then all of the little things that it takes to grow their careers with us. And I'm proud to say that during that time, being a Black-owned business, I was able to take people who were sales associates that didn't know anything about selling phones to becoming managers, to becoming directors of markets, and then eventually becoming general managers of Chicago and St. Louis, where they managed a profit and loss statement, a P&L. So, but it is, to your point, Jackie, doubling down on people. People are the power that drives business. So before I end the slide, you guys have to have no fear. See something, say something. Take a meeting with teammates, leadership, and discuss your ideas or ways to solve problems a little bit differently than the way people are solving them today. So what is the definition of an intrapreneur? Who's got it? I said at the very beginning, I told y'all to take notes. Mm-hmm.
I ain't lying, I put the definition in the chat.
Right on. Entrepreneurs are internal employees who use entrepreneurial skills and thinking to seek out initiatives that could benefit the organization financially. Woo, this is a big number, right? 90% of startups fail. The risk-reward equation is flawed. Yes, there's a tiny number of victors that get all the spoils, but there are a lot of people that don't. Believe me, I've been there, and it can be painful. Let's take a quick note of the inventory of my failures, which I try to fail forward. But USN, which was up there, I was part of the management team. We went IPO, and then we crashed because of some crazy stuff, SEC violations. 46664, which Freddie mentioned, I was working with the Nelson Mandela Foundation in South Africa. We built a sustainable revenue model through high-end fashion. And then when President Mandela passed away, oh my goodness, they did an inventory on all of the licensing and likenesses of the president and all of his trademarks and copyrights. And we realized the company that we were working with was not licensed to give us a license to sell and market and build this product outside of South Africa. So that's a variable. We had over $4 million invested in this business, and it went poof. And then Let It Fly. Let It Fly was another company on there. I was working with Mike Miller and Aaron Patton. Does that sound familiar, Freddie and Lee? Aaron Patton was one of the co-founders of the Jordan brand at Nike. He was the guy that brought me into the 46664 brand, as well as launching the Let It Fly brand, where I was the COO of that company. I worked with Kyrie, KD, LeBron, all of these folks to launch this amazing performance brand. Raised over $5 million in seed capital, not A round capital, but seed capital. And then it crashed because we didn't live up to the metrics that the investors wanted, and they were not willing to double down on our experience and our ability to go to market. So, and then when we turned to Mike and the rest of the cool NBA players, they're like, nope, not ready. Mike Miller, who is a two-time NBA champion with the Miami Heat, was like, no, I'm getting ready to retire. I can't afford to make any additional investments. So I went belly up. So the key is you fail forward, learn from your mistakes, revel in the good stuff you did, just like in my golf game. I continue to play golf, even though I messed up almost, 80 to 90% of the time. And then, try to make lemonade out of lemons. So there's a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs and small business owners, right? There are so many variables, both internal and external, to get it right and align at the right time in the right place to be successful. Does that make sense? And you'll take all the glory when you are successful, like TCG Collective. You guys are killing it. But when you fail, all eyes are on you, right? They're still on you, but you're not taking all the glory. And believe me, unwinding a business sucks. It just does. I mean, I've had the experience of laying off employees, I've had the experience of customers going to the competitors that you're competing against, and you had a different way of doing stuff, and you thought you were really cool, but you're not. They just went ahead and just signed up with another vendor. Investors, they can sue you. Oh my God. I haven't been in any lawsuits personally, but when I was at USN, the management team, after I left, had to deal with being sued by their investors. Banks want their money. Debt is debt, and they want their money back plus interest. So, your reputation can be seen as good or bad when you have failures. On the good side, you've developed some battle scars, right? You've been in the trenches, you tried, you did the best you could, but you failed. So that's okay. I'm willing to take another roll of dice on you again because you've experienced those battle scars. But on the other hand, you may get a vote of no confidence if you've had too many failures. So being an entrepreneur is crazy difficult. So why take on the risk of being an entrepreneur or a small business owner when you can be an intrapreneur and leverage the people, the relationships, the capital to create a new or value-added revenue generating opportunity for the company you're with? And here are some examples of that, right? We're at 43 minutes. Am I good on time?
Yeah, John.
You're good.
Okay. So Cheetos was experiencing the worst business cycle of their existence. The CEO puts out an edict to all the employees. If you can bring me a great idea, we'll pay you for it. The janitor, Richard, submits an idea called Hot Cheetos, which is now called Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And the CEO loves it. He no longer is a janitor. He becomes the face and the product owner for Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And today it generates over $2.2 billion for Cheetos, and it's its most popular brand. An example of entrepreneurship. The Happy Meal, a store manager in St. Louis, wanted to create a meal for kids, and he pitched it to the executive management team at McDonald's. And today, global sales are 1.5 billion Happy Meals. Post-it, a 3M engineer, was messing around with adhesives. That's what they do at 3M. And he created a really cool bookmark. So he had little strips of paper, and he put this adhesive on there, and it didn't rip the paper off when he put it on his book. And so he started handing out to all his friends in the company, and next thing he knew, people were writing notes to each other. Oh, guess what that became? The Post-it note, right? The people transformed it into a communications device and now generates over $1 billion annually. The iPhone, Steve Jobs did not invent the iPhone, but I will say he is the greatest marketer that's ever existed on this planet, right? I think Freddie and Lee can signify with that, although they are great marketers themselves. But his engineers created the iPhone, and they had to convince Steve that the iPhone was going to be a great device to be able to touch, right? To call someone's number, do a text message, and actually access apps that sit on a laptop. He didn't think it was a good idea, but he rolled with it, created an amazing marketing campaign around it, and now it's $365 billion in global sales. Amazon Prime. We know about Prime, right? It started out as a competitive tool called Super Saver Days when Amazon actually competed with eBay, and we know who won that battle. The premise around Super Saver Days was steep discounts. Well, people in the company were like, why are we continuing to do these steep discounts? You know about Prime too. That's cool, Mina. So basically they said, well, if we create a membership and we can guarantee 2-day delivery, then we don't have to discount our products, right? People are looking for that product to arrive as soon as possible, which would trump the eBay model. So they originally named it Optimum Prime, but now it's the leading brand of Amazon besides Amazon EWS, right? EWS is now trumped everything. And Amazon now generates over $9 billion in revenue and over 200 million customers globally with Amazon Prime. Now, My wife is not very happy with Amazon Prime at this time. Number one, they raise their rates. Number two, for some reason, we're not getting our packages within 2 days. Are you guys experiencing the same thing? Anybody experiencing
Yes.
packages
I'm
within
very disappointed.
that is crazy disappointing. And then finally, 42nd parallel.
Guys, I gotta interject. I actually ordered some stuff from Amazon last night and got it today.
Well, where do you live? And maybe I should move there.
He lives in the middle of the city. Post office.
Right, the distribution center is right across the street.
You know, I ordered something today, like around 11, and got it like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
What?
There's
Okay.
some products
They
that
live
do
in
that.
similar.
Some
They don't live
products
too
do
far from each other.
Okay.
John, I think it's just you, bro.
I think, hey, they must have us on a bad naughty list or something.
No, because I haven't been getting mine on time either.
And then when you complain, they'll do nothing about it.
No, they're afraid of Lee's complaints. You know, Lee will call the vice president, the president.
Right. Right.
Email.
I'm gonna call Bezos.
Right. Lee, your name comes up with a star next to it. Do not mess with Lee. But, you guys have some team members at 42nd Parallel, that literally out of the TCG collective team birthed 42nd Parallel. And, a great idea from Martina Chan, and then product implementation and support from Nancy and Nina. And, Freddie said it best. It really addresses the need in the market that we were fully qualified for. It's created one of the largest growth opportunities for the firm, and it is rising to be one of the premier agencies in Chicago and beyond. So that is a clear example of seeing opportunity, having conversations, and being an intrapreneur. So we need to learn that most situations, the grass is not greener on the other side. Have you guys heard that before? And as Jacqueline said, sometimes you just need to kind of double down, meaning that
Grass is brown everywhere.
there's brown. Yeah, okay. The grass is not browner on the other side. So that means that
It's brown all the way around.
all the way around. Right. So that means that there's an opportunity to add value, right? To innovate, drive revenue without starting your own business, taking those risks, right? As we sit here today, think about the engagements that you're involved in. What could you do differently to add or move value to the customer or create more revenue? What are those chinks in the processes and systems of the back office that that need a little updating to run a little bit smoother, to reduce costs a little bit more, to assist in driving more productivity and efficiency? And then how do you craft those opportunities? When we talked about job crafting, how do you craft those opportunities for long-term success, career growth, and long-term success? So, are you flexible? Can you adapt to a changing environment? How are you adding value to your teammates and the leadership of the company? Can you, Brene Brown, lead with empathy? Are you okay with being vulnerable and taking some shots? I know my friend Aaron Patton took a lot of shots at Nike when he was working with Jordan on his legacy brand, which we call the Jordan brand, and people didn't believe that you could do a brand within a brand at Nike at the time. He was vulnerable, but he led with empathy and convinced it. Now we know Jordan brand is everywhere. So I want you guys to take inventory. What are your skills and talents? Think about that. Are they being leveraged to the best of their abilities within the organizations that you participate with? What do you need to work on to become more valuable to your teammates and to the leadership of the companies you work with, or the clients or customers that you work with? Is it additional education that you need, or a certification? Take opportunity. Begin with the beginner's mindset. It can pay dividends for you. Try not to be a know-it-all. I'm still learning. It's a practice. Like in Buddhism, everything's a practice, right? It's a practice. You have to practice listening. You have to practice, moving forward with a beginner's mindset. Listen to what folks are saying and go deeper. Those will expose the opportunities that you take advantage of, potentially, to become an entrepreneur. And then take action. 42nd Parallel is an example of that, right? Seize the moment. They were fearless. They had courage. They had courageous conversations. So those ideas flowed into action, flowed into innovation, flowed into product, flowed into revenue. Hello, that's what we're getting to, right? Which led to happy customers and a happy company. So with that said, I will open it up for any questions that you may have.
Well, John, I want to say something on this, right? Because, just to give you real life examples, my first company, Urban Diverse Marketing, which I was around for a while, I had that company for at least 8 years, ran into, I went out of business because I had a friendly poach business, and then I just didn't, I lost it, it was my first experience feeling that. So then I lost momentum and decided to okay. And then, I got hired on with, I think in between that time, I went back to work for all of these agencies and all of these liquor brands until I landed with GTM again, which I used to work for initially with the Truth Campaign, and Courtney, the partner of, right? So Courtney and his partners brought me in. And this is a real solid example of entrepreneurship, right? Because they brought me in and let me bring in my team. Like the first person I said, okay, I'm coming in, I'm bringing in Lee Farmer, right? Yeah. They never stopped me. And we went and we added Olivia and Courtney, and those guys never stopped me from building and said, okay, we're just going to go ahead and build an experiential, pretty much, we're going to build an experiential department at GTM, and I'm the director, right? They're like, okay, he's doing his thing. Go ahead, Freddie, you're the director, and you hire all your own people, and they let me grow that thing. Again, they had the trust to let me grow that business, within their business, right? So experiential became a core part of their business. So when we went and started making television shows together, and Courtney knows, the experiential team became the television production team. Experiential can mean anything.
Right, totally.
And because we're experiencing, we're bringing experiences, right? So I was and I thank those guys for it, because when Lee and I decided to form Urban Diverse Marketing, we were ready. We were under the tutelage of these guys, and they pretty much taught us so much. And also, that business went another direction. We were happy where we were at. We were going to continue to blow that thing to the moon, but fortunately, that business went a different direction and doesn't exist today. But I will say it was one of the greatest teams on earth. But we learned so much under that tree, and so it's a model that we encourage, right? Like, you could build 42nd Parallel, which I call, we came from that, right? We came from
Freddie, that's your version. 42nd Parallel is your version of what you talked about with GTM, which is trust, transparency. You see great people with great skills and who you can trust, and there's love and loyalty between you. And then you just let people spread their wings and make sure that the over communication is happening, so everybody can try to maintain some balance. Yeah. And the opportunity to flourish is pretty much limitless at that point. So.
Yeah. And limitless is the key word, right? Because I felt limitless when I was at GTM, and I've never turned around from limitless. I don't believe in limits. And even when Lee and I met with Michelle Flowers, whatever, Like, you know, we didn't come in like, yeah, we'll do this Miller project, but we didn't say, hey, we're just going to be just a vendor. Like, Michelle, you don't have experiential, we'll build the whole thing. FCG experiential.
Yeah.
You know, largest driver of, let me say to this day, nobody's knocked us off the largest driver of revenue at FCG. There's nothing that drives more revenue than experiential at Flowers. Right? So like, you know, this is, and again, there was something there. Michelle was like, okay, cool, you guys go ahead and take it. You know, so we're entrepreneurs, we go into their system as vendors and become very successful entrepreneurs there. We're just, you know, there's no limits, right? So it's understanding, like, it's really trying to look at the big picture. Like, it's cool if you play a role, but, you know, your role could have a very big role. You know,
Yeah.
I love building stuff, you know what I mean? At the end of that's my passion. I love building things, and Lee and I, you know, he's also another person who builds. He has several businesses, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we found that partnership, that kinship together. We formed this company. We had that kinship with the guys at GTM. So that type of thing has only opened up the world to me, and I really suggest, like, you are in an environment where you can really make your own mark and build your own castle. You know, it is there for you, right?
That's love right there. Not too many people will say that.
Yeah.
There's a question from Nicole. Thank you for sharing that, Freddie. You know, from Nicole, in your experience, what has been the challenges that you've seen for women versus men? What advice do you have for women stepping up to the plate? That's a heavy question, and I'm sure all of our experiences have been different. Cultures that embrace women of color, people of color, you tend to have the most success in. Company cultures that have not been known for that, you're typically not going to get those opportunities to step up to the plate. So it depends on the company culture that you're with. And I really don't think it's a women versus men thing necessarily, as it is a cultural thing. I will say in my recent experience at Salesforce, they have done an amazing job of moving from a male-dominated culture to almost a 50-50 split of male versus female. And most of the people that I end up reporting to are women, but the challenge is still people of color. We're still single digits in a 75,000 employee global company. You know, the advice I would have for stepping up to the plate is step up to the plate. Have no fear. If you see something, say something. Formulate your idea. Be prepared to innovate. Be prepared to be vulnerable. Like I said, courageous conversations. People are gonna go like this, and you know, him and ha. But if you are confident and you stand behind what you're saying, your message will get through. Yes, you are right, Jackie. People of color in leadership, it's challenging everywhere. That's why I just loved having a black firm. I had black folks, Latino folks, I had white folks, I had Asian folks. It was great. We were a multicultural firm. And most of the people that were in management during my US Cellular days were women, because they were the ones that stepped up to the plate. A lot of them, they had more responsibility than the dudes did, right? They had small families. Some of them were single moms, and knew that career growth was their ability to get to prosperity and have some money in the pocket left over after paying all the bills. So, you know, we just need more companies, small and large, to realize the power and the value of not only people of color, but also women of color.
Yeah, TCG, women are killing the game.
They are the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
You have a lot of women in key positions that are, doing a great job.
Yeah.
And you're a center that embraces it. So
They're what?
step up.
They make this thing work. The women of this company make this thing work. You know,
Yep.
not to take. I'm one of the men. Not to take down. Not to put anything against the men, but the women.
The women make it happen.
Make it happen. They make it happen.
Just gotta tell the truth. That's it.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
And you know,
That's another T-shirt. Women make it happen.
There you go.
I say we gotta celebrate. You know, gotta celebrate the Michelle Flowers, the Courtney Counts of the world. You know, the John Hills of the world, because it's about that collaborative, supportive thing. You know, and again, like, you know, my old boss at GTM, people say I'm tough. I'm actually a softie. I'm tough on the outside, soft on the inside. But you know, Carl Carter, who was owner of GTM, probably Courtney would tell you that was his business partner. Probably one of the toughest human beings ever to work for. Right? But, you know, he built a magical thing. You know, and I would say, Courtney, I don't, it's Black History Month. Let me say, I salute you. That marketing company that GTM was probably one of the most successful, forward-thinking things I've ever been a part of. It was an incredible experience. Thank you, Courtney. And
No. Thank you, brother. Thank you. And Carl happens to be in town, and we're, dare I say, we got some pots on the stove that we're cooking up, and we got you and Lee and the TCG family. We got placeholders, invisible placeholders in spot for one of those pots. So stay tuned.
We're always down with getting the band back together.
That's it.
And you know, but I say that because you got to take a second and like, it is so hard to be here, there. It is so hard. Like, it is so hard to own. You know, TCG's been in, Lee, we're at 10 years? I think we're at 10, 11.
You're one of the 10%.
Yeah. Dude, this was not, you're on mute, Lee. This ain't easy. Right? You look at John's chart and it's like capital, whatever. You know how much we had to work to put together capital to keep it afloat? Lee's the business financial mind. But like, you know, this ain't an easy thing. You need capital when your clients don't pay you. You got to keep a team together. You got to like build leadership within the team. This shit ain't easy. And what happens is, like I told you, the urban diverse marketing, John knows I was doing good.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have, you know, when Elaine left, I had my team. That's why I knew that the team can't just be two people. Right? That's what I learned there. The team can't just be two people. So, you know, we have a big team now, you know, but it is super hard, guys. Super hard to like keep, you know, to be an entrepreneur. It's super hard. I am proud to say we are Black and brown owned. That you don't even find. Go look it up. Go look for the Black and brown owned companies. Go look for a company that has a Black owner and a Latino owner, and then come back to me and let me know how many companies you find.
Right.
That alone is a not a common thing, you know. And you know, again, like you trust. You know, I see it with the team, John. I see it with, you know, the Minas, the Lindas, the Jackies, and you know, Larry and Zarel. Like these guys form these bonds with each other, right? Yeah. And that is super crucial because what's kept this thing going is the bond between me and Lee. There's no doubt. There's not one.
I would say that's impenetrable, unbreakable.
Yeah, we're unbreakable. There ain't nothing. Ain't nothing stopping the two. We don't. Everything we talk about is forward, right? And then, you know, and Nancy's been a big part of it. But like the way the team forms that bond with each other, I know these people on the team. No matter what happens, they're gonna be friends forever. I can say that. I'm confident that there's many people on this team that are gonna be in their lives forever. So those bonds could be limitless, right? Like, you know.
I want to say something really quickly too. You know, going back to John's point of being an entrepreneur, right? Having access to capital is the most difficult thing for a small business. Like, you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
And, you know, like to this day, TCG has never gotten a loan from the bank. This company has been 100% financed by Freddie and myself, and us not taking paychecks and putting money back into the company, you know what I'm saying, or running up our credit cards, right? And it's been pretty much impossible for us to get like financing that a lot of other companies get. Things are starting to change now.
Yeah.
The climate is changing with banking, and you know, hopefully we'll have access to capital soon. And we've been able to save money and put away money instead of taking profits. And so that's how we keep the company running. So basically it's been at the sacrifice of us paying ourselves, right?
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you don't face those challenges, right? You can go into another company, and if you create a lane for yourself and make yourself a star, and you have some great ideas, you can form a business unit of a company, and that company has the capital to put behind that business unit, right? And so you can literally become an entrepreneur within that business, like, you know, our 42nd Parallel team
Yeah.
has done, right? And that's what, you know, that's what I'm looking for. That's what Freddie's looking for. You know what I mean? We're looking for ways to increase our revenues and build our business and make our business grow by having people that are able to step up, you know what I'm saying, and run things and step up with ideas, you know, and if they're valid ideas, then we'll take them to the next level.
Yeah.
So step up, y'all.
Yeah, Terrell, when are you going to ask us to be our exclusive catering partner? When's that going to happen?
Come on now.
In the business, yeah. You need to set up a meeting with me and Lee. We need to talk about exclusive catering at events.
Let's do it. Come on.
Right in front of you. Right in front of you.
Well, you know, this is the thing, right? Just so you know, the owners, the CEOs, the SVPs, the EVPs, they're not going to come to you. They're busy. They've got a million things on their plate. They're trying to figure out how to keep the, you know, the machine going and keep the wheels turning, right? So you may have these skills, but if you're not showcasing those skills, if you're not letting that be known, then, you know, like what entrepreneurs are good at and executives at companies are good at, they're good at when they see something, they're looking at a global picture, right? And they're like, oh, that can fit in over here.
Yeah.
But we can utilize that skill set over here. But if they're not seeing that, then they're looking outward and they're looking at other places. So those are things that you have to always make sure that you're putting in front of the people that you're working for.
Yeah, and in thinking about that question around women in business, the person who set the stage for my work ethic and career pathing was Michelle Flowers. Think about that full circle.
Wow.
She was at Burrell. She was senior vice president of public relations. She was the one that brought me on into the company to be an intern and co-op with them on Procter & Gamble. And, you know, mama didn't take no mess. So by her, you know what I'm saying? So by her, you know, being, you know, not only a strict voice, but also a voice of reason, allowed me to grow and develop as a person, to be able to communicate more effectively, which led me to the ability to do the other things that I've done. So, you know, I appreciate her and the moment and the time that we spent together. There was another question in here.
Yeah, Linda had a question there.
Differently, you started out. That's a really good question. I haven't had time to reflect on that. But the short answer is no. I had to take opportunity where opportunity presented itself and then figure out how I continue to stick and move along the way. You know, I never got back to the agency world, but a new world opened up for me, which allowed for me to, you know, be successful and, you know, and support raising a family. So, short answer is no regrets.
Thank you, and great presentation overall. It was really interesting.
Oh, thank you.
No
Yeah,
problem.
and
Get that.
just another quick note: career paths are never linear, right?
As you saw from my little timeline.
Come on.
It's never linear, and you really
Yes.
never know where you're gonna go. You know what I mean? I started out as a DJ. I formed a record label. The record label was very successful. I got into some real estate. You know what I mean? I started DJing and, you know, for different brands. You know what I mean? My friend Freddie was working with different liquor distributors. So, you know, all of those things played a part. You know, the music business tanked. My record label went under. I started the company with Freddie. But who knew that I was going to be here today? You know what I mean? If I would have looked at my path,
Yeah.
20 years ago, there's no way I could have predicted that I'm sitting here in this spot right now doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So, but if you seize opportunity and you can understand where those opportunities are going to fall, then you'll continue to be successful.
And Lee, I think about your music career. I was with Jared Thompson, or JT, when I was in LA last week, from Hidden Beaches and Jill Scott and Steve McKeever and all of them. And we were talking about the same thing that you just talked about.
Now, I remember Steve sent me all of the product from Hidden Beach. I still got all the vinyl, all the albums from Steve.
Yeah. So it was a great conversation, and that kind of because JT is on to branding and movies. He does a little music stuff, but not that much.
I've been working a lot with Jay Ivey. I just did the live recording of Tari Torre's album over the weekend.
Yeah.
Right? And I recorded Jay's album, and we got nominated for a Grammy for his last album.
Right on, man. Congrats.
But Jay started out doing poetry and writing poems.
Yeah.
And now he wrote all the narration for the Genius documentary, and he's traveling all around the country. Like, he came into his wife's recording session, jumped on a song real quick, and then had to jump on a plane to get to New York for the next level of promotion for the Genius series, right?
Yeah.
So,
And it's a small world, because Jay Ivey, I remember from Rituals.
Yeah.
Right? And Tari Torre, his wife, that we recorded the album from, used to be one of the promotional models for my company, Urban Diverse Marketing. It all comes back around. And I want to
it's your network.
And Tari she won a Grammy with John Legend. Jay won a Grammy with Kanye. Now we're nominated for one together. You know what I mean? And like, all of this stuff has come full circle. But 20 years ago, nobody would have known. Cootie decided he was going to go to New York and follow Kanye. Everyone thought he was crazy at the time.
Well, and Cootie was out on the road with us with the Electric Moyo tour with Nissan.
Exactly.
And he shot the background footage for that.
Yeah, so, he decided to follow Kanye, and now, him and Chike did a $100 million deal with Netflix.
Yeah.
And I know we got to go because we're running late. But
Here's another question. Would you give a person that has all this experience in one field, right? And wants to step into another one? All of your talents and skills are transferable. Don't let language and vernacular of another industry scare you away. You'll learn that language and vernacular of that industry. So what you have to do is work on aligning and yourself and your talents and skills with the requirements of that next move, because they're all transferable. I didn't know anything about software as a service, which is the platform that Salesforce rolls on, but I had transferable skills that made me valuable to Salesforce. So, and then again, lifelong learning, continue to learn. Is that another question, you guys?
Yes.
I think Tanisha had one more question.
Yep, that's me.
That's it.
How are freshers perceived when their education doesn't completely align with their area of interest? I know TCG multiple skill sets are extremely valuable to team members. Where you see it, John?
Yeah. So like it gets back to what we kind of discussed before, is building a network, transferable or skills that can be aligned. It is difficult. It is extremely challenging, but it can be done. But it takes a lot of energy and effort. It's almost like it has to become your 9 to 5 for it to happen. From the aspect of the education that you have to put yourself through, the network that you have to build around that, right? And then go after opportunities via the network you built. Like I said, you got to get around the recruiting platforms that are machine learning, AI based, that are only looking at certain words in your resume to potentially qualify you for the opportunity. So it gets back to your network. And Lee and Freddie and myself and Courtney, it's the network that keeps us alive.
It's a network, like you said earlier.
So we just
Yeah.
gotta like have it for a little.
Yeah, and we don't have to restart. I called John out of the blue and said, "Hey, I want you to do this thing." Like we don't have to.
Yeah,
We don't
I
have
didn't know what it was, and here I am.
Yeah, we don't have to have a 5-hour conversation to convince him. He's like, he's like, "I got you." And I want to say, like, and obviously this is a special Shinjiro session for Black History Month, and I want to say, my greatest mentors in life have been Black men. Right? The first person, he passed away, God bless his soul, last year. Larry, his nickname was Bird, Larry Bird Grimes. He was my mentor. He mentored me. He was the market manager for Schiffling and Somerset at the time. That was the company that managed Moet Hennessy, Grand Marnier, and he took me the south side of Chicago. And like I got into the liquor business because, and I walked into as a Puerto Rican, only person not Black into the clubs, all in the heart of the South Side, and was like, and then everybody looked at me, he's like, "Oh, he's with me, that's my guy." Teaching them, that's my guy, right? So
Wax on, wax off situation.
it was total Mr. Miyagi. But the fact he would co-sign me, right, and I was, and then some of my the GTM team, Courtney, Carl, Kimball, like these are Jackie's name. These were
Everett Rand is the man.
Yeah, these to work for a Black-owned company owned by 5 Black men, opening up all sorts of worlds in the general market was an incredible experience.
Yeah,
and I got to understand firsthand all their challenges, all their battles, and that was my mentorship. To me, was my little piece of understanding Black history, right? Because I'm sure Larry mentored many people. Many people went through that GTM machine and got mentored and are massive professionals today.
Yeah.